Good afternoon. I'm currently on Mowbray Road in Sunderland, stood outside number 2, which is this grand house by the name of Carlton House. It was originally built in 1850 for Alderman Nicholson, who was a councillor. Now, it was a grand house then, probably even more so, because the whole grounds of Langham Tower, the gardens of Langham Tower, and the land behind it, which is like a over 55s residential complex, was all part of the estate. Now, when it was auctioned in 1885, it had an artificial lake in the grounds, vineries, stables, lovely gardens. The house itself had wine cellars, a billiard room, 8 bedrooms. So it was a fine house. It was one of the finest houses in the whole of Sunderland, Bishop Wearmouth and Monk Wearmouth. Now, Alderman Nicholson, when he sold the property, the new owner did some work on the stables, which I'm going to have a walk across, because this is what this particular story is about. Just before we go there, I just want to show you, look at the work that's been done on that terrace. I think it used to be called Carlton Terrace. This particular house, Carlton House, it used to be a students' union building. I remember coming here drinking in the mid-1990s, I think 1994, 95. It was about 99p a pint, happy days. But in 1890 when the work was done on the stables, which was the corner of Langham Tower and Ryop Road. Now, in the foundations, workmen came across some bones covered by stones, and it was a skeleton. There was also some earthenware pots or urns which were found close to it, along with a halfpenny from 1627. Now, the body was found on its back with the legs pulled in towards the body at the time of burial. Now, it was classed as an ancient skeleton, so there was no inquest held, and that was pretty much the end of the whole particular story. George Nicholson, who was, I think was the councillor, he actually wrote to the Echo to say that he had found, and his family had found, numerous particular antique coins in the grounds of the estate over the years. So it's a bit of a mystery of how old this skeleton was, who it was, and how it had ended up in this particular position, because if it had been in Christian times, Bishop Wearmouth Parish Church was only probably 3/4 of a mile over there, so which would have been for most burials. Now, there's also a chance that it could be a victim, somebody who committed suicide or took their own life in ancient times or medieval times. Even as late as 1814, there was a lady called Margaret Pool from Bishop Wearmouth Pans, which was close to Wearmouth Bridge. She took her own life with laudanum. Now, the inquest decided that it was deliberate, and they returned the verdict of felo de se, which basically meant when that verdict was returned, the person didn't have a Christian burial. Or in later times, there's one instance of Bishop Wearmouth where somebody was buried at midnight. Most inquest juries felt sympathy for the particular person, and so would often try and bring in a verdict of by temporary insanity to get around that. But Margaret, because of this felo de se, she was denied the right of burial in a Christian churchyard, so it was ordered that she would be buried in the road, the turnpike road, which led to Ryop, which is the Ryop Road as we know today. Obviously at that point it would have been a lane, nothing like as big as it was today, so she was actually buried in the road. That practice stopped in 1823 when it was outlawed. But when Margaret was buried, there was a large crowd turned up. So I'm not saying it is her, but this stretch of road, there's probably people who have been buried in it over the centuries who have never been discovered yet. Now, we've come up to Langham Tower here, which you can see, it was up for sale. It has been recently bought. Absolutely massive building. Now the actual stable block was in the corner of Langham Tower and Riot Road Lane as it was at the time. Right, we're on Riot Road, there's Old Christ Church. There's up to Langham Tower. Got West Hendon House over there, home of Thomas William Backhouse, who gave the land for the well-known Backhouse Park. Now I'm just going to go down here just to show you how big the grounds of Nicholson House was. Now there was lots of these skeletons turned up across Sunderland, Bishop Wearmouth and Mount Wearmouth. I've done a few stories on a lot of them on Facebook, and obviously there was the scientific techniques available today were not available then, so that's just part of the back of Nicholson House. And these skeletons were never really ever identified of who they were, or even what era they were particularly from. Now, as I said, the 1627 coin could have just ended up being in that particular area over when the stables had been built originally, or somebody on the road had lost it when they were coming down. But I'm just coming round to show you the back of the grounds of Nicholson House as it was. There's another Nicholson House is in the background, so you can see what a fine building it was. And there's a good view up to Langham Tower. So this is just one example of a skeleton that was turned up, never identified, and I've got a few more of these videos to do. One which I think is probably the most interesting is the two skeletons that were found on Chester Road, close to the Royalty pub and the Royalty Theatre itself, which I will do those at some point. So that is the story of the skeleton in the stables. So thank you very much for watching. Thanks.